Hi everyone, and welcome to the All Things ITSM Global Podcast. We're coming to you from FUSION15 in New Orleans. I'm Kirsty McGowan. I'm here with Tristan Boot.
Hi, Kirsty.
Carlos Casanova.
Hello, Kirsty.
And we're going to chat with Greg Sanker. Hi, Greg.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, good to have you back again.
Yeah.
I think it was Norway we spoke to you last.
Yeah, when I declared myself to be I make mistakes during the day and write about them at night.
Yeah,
You remember that?
that's the one.
It's still true.
So have things changed, Greg?
You've
You've been working in change a little bit.
we work in change a little bit, yeah.
So tell me about that a little bit. You know, I mean, we've been speaking to a lot of folks and whatnot. You know, change management still seems to be one of those areas where if we don't get it straight, everything else kind of just bumbles around after that. You know, it generates a lot of other incident-related stuff, and it's just that one governance place that we still struggle with for as long as we've been trying to do it. And you know, spelling RFC shouldn't be that hard.
It should not be that
It
hard.
shouldn't be, yeah.
But we
it
still
still
seem
is.
to struggle with just the basics of it sometimes.
So I've been making presentations about getting started with change management and doing it in a way that you can mature your change management. And every time I talk about it, I'm shocked at the amount of help people seem to need on something that IT should have been doing well for 20, 30 years.
Do you think that's because they're trying to do too much at the start? I think I like your approach of getting started and then maturing it.
I think that's one of the problems. You turn to page 37 and say, well, we got to do this, a very complex process that's dependent on release and config and a lot of other processes, but you don't have that. And I also think that change management earns a really, really bad reputation because if you put it in, we've done all of our development work, now we have to go to CAB. It's like there is no value in that. The only thing it does is delay.
Yeah, and people do see it as a bottleneck, as something that's stopping them doing something.
Well, and that's why I always call it deployment ticketing.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really just
a good point.
Because I mean that's what I find. It's like, oh, we've been doing change for whatever. It's like, so how's your change process? And use that term very lightly.
Right.
How does that work? Well, we do all of our development, we do our testing, and then I go to this guy, and he always holds me up for 2 weeks before I go to him on Wednesday, and we want it out on Saturday. Well, that's not change management.
Right.
That's deployment ticketing.
Right.
And that's where it gets sort of a bad name, but it's not really a bad name. It's just that they're not really doing what they should.
Exactly, and that's kind of a hard message to carry. Is that's great that you're doing this. There's a point of communication, and there is a disaster check in that.
Sure.
It's like the story. I'm going to beat you to the punch because my presentation was Wednesday. But there was a state agency, not in my state, that they contracted with this major development effort. They did the whole thing. They were locked and loaded, customers ready, and they had to take it to CAB, and they come to CAB. And in the process, you have to tell a story just right to get the full effect. And the process, the change manager says your change is denied. And it's like, hey, who are you to deny my change? And you say, well, I get to be the one that tells you that you develop for .NET and we don't have a production .NET environment. And it's like, wow.
Minor detail.
Real story, too.
Yeah.
So change management, if you start out at the end, do that last check, the deployment ticketing, and mature it only from that standpoint, you're really not doing change management.
Right.
And so you got to migrate upstream, and so a fully mature change process it has multiple check-in points where it's deeply entrenched into the development, to the planning, to the strategy.
Yeah, when you do change management well, no one's ever going to know about it.
Exactly.
Right.
When you do it badly, everybody knows about it. That's when you get the news articles, which I think we had one in New Zealand last week about a minor technical glitch causing people not being able to do stuff for hours. I mean, that minor technical glitch, I'm certain, was probably somebody made a badly managed change.
I know. I see change management in the headlines all the time.
It is.
The thing is that change would be the only one that would actually get reviewed. I think that's something else that is massively important in a change process that is often not done, and the value of that as you're trying to mature your processes. And so using a proper CAB agenda.
Exactly. Well, so that's the other problem that I see a lot of. The everything comes to CAB scenario. Yeah. So you're spending as much time on a minor table change as you are a major release or implementation.
Yeah. Right. That doesn't make sense.
It does not make sense. And everybody knows it. Everybody involved with the CAB knows it. But if you have it entrenched in the culture, it's like, we got to do Mother May I. So how many words do we have to say before you let us do this minor change?
Yeah, and when you start doing that, that's when the major changes that really need to be examined carefully slip through the cracks.
They do.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just from a pure workload perspective, any medium or large organization, if you start sending everything through CAB, it's just not realistic.
It's not tenable, right?
Right. So then it's like, then it starts fulfilling its own prophecy, right?
Yes.
Oh, it takes us so long, and we have these 3-hour meetings, and and they really can't review it, and then you're hoping that like everything kind of came through, but you got 20 more, and it really, I don't know, it's kind of crazy, but we don't seem to learn sometimes from this.
And that's the part that's amazing, because we do continual improvement on just about everything except change management. I mean, a lot of organizations are doing well. I know that. But I talk to a lot of organizations. And they know it. And they know they need help. They know they need maturity.
So, Greg, what would your criteria be then for what changes would need to go through a CAB?
Only the important things.
Only the important things that are going to cause big problems. No, I think where and one of the areas that are frequently not started early is delegated authority in standard changes.
Yes.
Get that in place as early as possible.
Then you can get those off the plate.
So we get those off the plate. And then I have started working on actually predicting a model for your change management end to end. So you actually have a manufacturing quality metrics on that, so you can mathematically predict the quality of the changes that go out, so you know which ones you have to look at based on the risk factors. Not complete with that yet, but that's where I'm going. Because that's the question that everybody faces is how much needs to go to CAB. And you could do, Stuart Rance was talking about this, where you delegate authority and you lose your delegated authority if you have a failed change for a period of time.
That makes sense.
It does make sense.
And make more use of peer review as well. I think is a key thing that needs to happen more.
One of the things that, since we do such a I don't want to say poor job, but we let through a lot that makes mistakes, is I would rather see us let things through to a delegate and let them make mistakes and learn that way, rather than pull everything because we believe that we have to control.
Well, this is a conversation I was having with a client a little while ago about that appetite for risk in the business as well, and actually how much can you let slip through that goes wrong, but you can learn from, so it won't happen again. Because if you don't know all your systems, if you don't have a CMDB in place, it's actually one way of learning it. It's not the ideal way of learning it, but but I've actually it does work as long as you learn from it, and that's where the review of failed changes is key.
Now you said something that triggered a thought for me. My wife works for a major retailer. Yeah, I know. But thank you. My wife works.
We'll get on recording now.
She works for a major retailer, and they moved to an omni-channel distribution system, and they moved extremely fast. So she comes home and tells me all these things that they're doing at work, and I'm thinking change management, service management. And she said the portal that they use to do their shipping is horrible. You have a small icon here and a big icon here, and to print the order you have to print it and then go back up 2 screens and go like this. It's a travesty of biblical proportion, and the change manager should have denied that change. That's a horrible change. However, they had billions of dollars of revenue commitment on the line. And the business risk was, is that going to impact shipments? Are we going to ship products to the wrong location? Are the wrong products? Answer, no. And therefore, it's a good change. Deliver the business value on the schedule that the business needs. Fine-tune it later. And they did. They came back very quickly.
And that's the key, because that so often doesn't happen.
Well, that's it. I mean, have they come back?
They have, yes. There's been 2 major releases in about 6 months.
Yeah, because I mean, typically, you don't see. I mean, it gets put on the schedule. I know this one organization, a colleague of mine is working with. They put off those things. It'll be in the next release, but they've already fully committed for the next release. So that doesn't really ever happen. And then things always slip on any release. So that gets stacked.
So it gets pushed back.
So they're 4 releases away from ever getting back to that. And that's where I think you lose credibility to the point where you say, no, you know what, next time, we're not going to let it go.
And I think that's a massive thing with the change process is credibility and trust, and actually building that and keeping it. And do you have any sort of tips for people on how it's best to do that?
Put me on the spot.
Carefully. Carefully. Do it very carefully.
Well, I'm a big proponent of putting the right metrics in place, which I would define not as how many changes and how many roll back, but how many actually achieve the results that the customer wants.
Results,
yeah. And that is...
It's actually the only thing that matters.
It is the only thing that matters, and it's the thing that I see measured the least in a normal change process. It's also something where, you know, when I'm speaking to a room, people look at me like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm talking about change management. I'm like, well, why do we do what we do? We have to deliver something that the customer wants.
Oh, excellent. Well,
So,
thank you, Greg.
thank you for having me.
That was a really
Thank you,
good
Greg.
chat.